Hi guys, this is the Audiofool, and for today, we're going to review the Magnepan LRS. What I like the most about the Magnepan LRS is that soundstage. It's deep and wide and holographic, and it feels like the music is just coming out of nowhere. The treble is clean and detailed, and the vocals are smooth and airy. It wasn't very hard to position, not in my listening room or in my living room. And best of all, it's only $650, easily worth every penny for the sound it provides. What I don't like about the Magnepan LRS is that it feels a bit flimsy, especially with the flippers flip, which I did flip the flippers because it sounded better flipped. So you might want to put something heavy in the footers, or better yet, get double subs because the Magnepans do need some help in the bass region. I also don't like that the sensitivity is quite low, much lower than the specified 86 dB, because the volume knob is turned up way much more than my 85 dB LS50s. And finally, you have to check if Magnepans are for you, because it might be disconcerting because, like I said, the sound is just coming out of nowhere. Or you might prefer a more traditional soundstage, but I do suggest you give it a try if you have the space, because they sound really good for the price, and I've been audio-fooled. A great disappearing act by a cheap magician. If you want to know more about the comparison, please keep on watching. Here we have the Magnepan LRS, or Little Ribbon System. It's not too tall at 4 feet, but quite thin at about 1.25 inches thick. If you can peer through the fabric, you can see the ribbons spaced quite close for the tweeter and far apart for the woofer. It still amazes me how music is made through these things, and quite a nice sound to boot. Sensitivity is rated at 86 dB, but they produce much less volume than the 85 dB LS50s, so these might feel more like 80 to 81 dB. Footers are bolted and have a flipper to adjust the treble positioning, and I like it the most with the flippers flip, but it does look a bit unstable. Those with pets and young kids should probably avoid Maggies. It feels like a light accidental push might topple it, and it looks as if it could be easily punctured in the ribbons. But I do like how svelte they are, and my wife loves not only their looks but also their sound. One last thing. They say it's a bit hard to position, but in my listening room, I pretty much got it dialed in at the first try, using the typical bookshelf positioning. First, I compared it with the KEF LS50s using a Shitager and an Yggdrasil GS, and it does pretty well against the twice expensive speaker, getting 2 out of 5, mostly failing because of the lack of bass. Interestingly enough, I actually Don't Know Why with the LRS, as it sounded much more relaxing and dreamier despite the vocal prowess of the LS50s. Going to genres, I'd go for jazz and orchestra for the LRS, while bass-laden songs as well as vocal purity would go for the KEF LS50s. Bass is no contest. While the LRS is fast and punchy and still enjoyable on its own, it lacks weight, and the LS50s have more volume and extension. Mid-range is also quite decent in the LRS, but the LS50s are a bit more detailed while richer at the same time. Vocals are also more forward and more solid. But things turn around with treble, as the LRS produces slightly clearer and more defined tones. Instruments are easily separated with the 3D imaging, while the LS50s is mostly flat, with just the vocals being in front. The LRS also has an inky black background, while the LS50 is slightly noisier and has a longer decay. I never thought I'd say this, but the LS50s are bass machines. Well, at least compared to the LRS. Vocals are also superior, as well as piano notes, but the LRS aren't too far behind, and they more than make up for it with crisper, cleaner highs and that effortless 3D soundstage. And of course, the LS50s are still twice the price of the LRS, so you can actually get that LRS plus a forward-firing sealed sub to help seal the deal. Next, I compared it to my $1,000 reference, the aptly named Elac reference DBR62s, using the high-powered Peachtree Audio Nova 300. The result was a similar affair to the KEF LS50s, where the LRS is 2 out of 5, Again, it's the bass which lets it down, but otherwise still quite enjoyable. So in choosing genres, they have similar scores as well. Bass is really much more satisfying in the Elacs as they go down low and loud. The Elacs also have a thicker, more solid mid-range, but the LRS isn't far behind and actually has a little bit more definition in the mids. Vocals are more forward and focused in the Elacs, but while the LRS is leaner, it's also a bit airier and sounds less compressed. Treble is superior in the LRS, not only being more agile and having more bite, but also having more finer details. Soundstage is a bit deeper, wider, and has more space between instruments in the LRS. Again, the LRS is dead silent, which lends to blacker backgrounds. The Elacs are slightly cheaper. They come in the traditional bookshelf format, which makes them easier to place around the room. They have more bass, they're easier to drive, and despite being the safe choice, they actually sound quite great. But you have to listen to the Magnepan LRS because they sound so different from your typical bookshelf or floor standard, especially in this price range. They have this easy holographic imaging, which I find so engaging. But they do have their quirks though, so it's not going to be for everyone. But if you have the space, I do suggest you give it a try because it might be the speakers for you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or suggestions, just write them down below. See you in the next video.